Hello Masters Universe Classics fans, we have King Grayskull from the Powers of Grayskull. This guy is pretty darn cool. He's the heroic ancestor of He-Man. We also get the Powers of Grayskull sticker on the bubble too. Huge shout out. Thank you so much Nick for getting me this guy. I know you saw my video where I did the Castle Grayskull review that I didn't have the Orb of Grayskull because it came with this version of King Grayskull. I had the other San Diego Comic-Con exclusive King Grayskull, but this one has a different paint on it, it has different swords, and of course it also has the orb. It is pretty cool that on the packaging you see like this blue lightning energy force coming across where the two swords are split in half. I think that's pretty awesome how they did that. Unless you're a hardcore Masters Universe fan, you probably don't know that this early image shown on the bio is actually King Grayskull that was shown in the mini-comics. He's not addressed as King Grayskull. In fact, we never really knew there was a King Grayskull himself until later in the 2000 series. Anyways, let's read the bio here. Real name, Devon Grayskull. Growing up under the oppressive rule of the Snake Man, Grayskull was driven to rebel against injustice when his brother was captured and eaten. Others flocked to Grayskull's banner and his legend began to grow. Declared king for his courage, compassion, wisdom, and strength, Grayskull became a great leader, ruling along with his council of wise elders. A destined guardian of the Sword of He, Grayskull magically passes essence into the blade with his last breath, ensuring that only his heirs would now wield it and tap into the great power it harmonized with. After his death, the sword was split in two and his power transmuted into a great orb inside his castle, protected by Grayskull's devoted and loving widow. Anyways, really cool, really excited about opening this guy up, so let's go and get to it. Here's Grayskull himself. He comes with a shield, which is very similar to the shield that came with He-Man. Of course, he also comes with the Orb of Grayskull, which is supposed to have his essence. And if you look through the orb with him in the background, you see an upside-down version of him. He comes with a completed version of the Sword of He, or the Sword of Grayskull, or the Sword of Power, depending on what you want to call it. If you look at the blade, it's very similar to the one that Hero has, and it's also clear, but it's just the tip. Just the tip. Ha! Giggity. Anyways, he also comes with two separate blades. These blades are very reminiscent from the 1980s He-Man figures that came out, where both He-Man and Skeletor had half the blade to get into Grayskull. This also interconnects very similar to those two. If you just kind of slip them together like this, and it holds together fairly well, which I'm really happy about. Here's a comparison of the two swords. As you can see, the blue lining at the top is much different from the one that's connected together. But let's look at King Grayskull himself. His face is really shiny. They put on a lot of gloss on him. He's got a really cool cape, and it's very fuzzy here. They put this whole fuzzy stuff that I think is really cool. And he has the red cape as opposed to the brown cape that was available from the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive figure. He has the removable leather strap iron cross on his chest. He's also got the long hair here, which some people aren't a fan of, but I think it looks great on him. If you look close here, he's already got some paint rubbing off, which is something that I heard about from this figure, but still, I don't see too much of it coming off, so I'm not going to complain much about it. I'm not going to take off his leather straps, but if you want to, his cape comes off fairly easily. There's two little points here to put him in, and you could just display him in his leather straps without it. His articulation is pretty standard for any Masters Universe figure, but I'll go ahead and go through it anyway. First, we have movement in his head, his mid-torso, his waist, his upper shoulder, his bicep, his elbow, his wrist, his upper leg, his knee, his boot, and his ankles, which unfortunately is very, very weak. He's got the cool detail metal gauntlets, he's got the half one on one side, and he's got the full one on the other. Two-tone furry boot straps. Like many Masters Universe fans, he's also got the furry underwear here that's very detailed. Without his cape on, you could potentially put his sword behind here on his leather strap, but unlike He-Man, there isn't a particular place that was put there specifically for the sword. Here's a comparison of two different King Grayskulls that have come out. There's also the Spirit of Grayskull that came out, and there was also a statue version of him where he was painted all bronze. But these are the two most common versions of them. You can see the different paint schemes between the two of them. The San Diego Comic-Con exclusive version also came with an axe. The regular version for the MattyCollector sub did not. Also, looking in at the faces, you can see the SDCC version is much less shiny as opposed to the regular version. The top of the cape here also has fuzz on it on the regular version, where the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive version does not. I'm not really sure which version I prefer overall. I do like red. Red is my favorite color, and I do like the fuzz on the top here too. However, these weak ankles are bugging me a lot. The SDCC version can stand up on his own, whereas this one has a lot of difficulty doing that. Here's a quick shot of King Grayskull on top of his Battle Lion, which, by the way, this guy is so cool. I also like seeing these guys together. They just seem like they fit so well. Okay, final shot. I just wanted to show King Grayskull next to his wife, Vina, Queen Grayskull, and of course, He-Man He-Man himself. The guy is really cool. I'm really happy with his figure. Like I said, other than the ankles, I think he came out really well. The only exception I have, though, is there is some paint rubbing off, but, you know, that's not too big of a deal. I can't really say which figure I prefer more, whether it be him or the San Diego Comic-Con version, but still, both of them are essentially the same figure, just different paint sculpts. He is long gone from MattyCollector, so chances are you're probably not going to be able to get him there. He does seem to resurface from time to time, especially whenever they release the Spirit of Grayskull, which is something they do only periodically here and there. If you can find him, I highly recommend him because I really do think he fits in well with the Masters Universe Classics. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me in this toy review, and I'll join you in another one very soon. Peace, love, namaste, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. By the way, the Orb of Grayskull goes inside Grayskull itself, but that's going to be in the next video I do. You'll see why when I do it.